invited into this workshop, which is Confidently You, Stepping into Your Power. And today I'm going to be actually talking about why we lose our confidence, not how maybe how to get it, but maybe how understanding more about how we haven't got it in the first place, and why we are affected by different situations that will make us feel that we need more power. So, I want to start by talking to you about how I ended up coming to stand in front of you today and talk about this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me. So I have 20 years experience in the MOD. I was a civil servant. When I left college at 18, that was the first full-time grown-up big job that I had. It was very exciting, but Ministry of Defence is very male-dominated. So I found myself in a team of about 8 people when I first started my first job. And I was the only woman. And I started at entry level. And what happened in this, I'm going to give you a rough insight into the 20 years that went after that. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thrived in that environment. I really, really enjoyed it. But when I was 24, I went into my first managerial role. And I was quite confident as a younger version of myself, pre-kids, pre-everything else. But at 24, I took my first managerial role and I had 2 women working for me. And both of them had been in that job, in that environment for a lot longer than I had. And I couldn't understand why they were very mad that I had taken this job. But when I delved into it a little bit more, I was really, really worried about it. I was really kind of thought maybe we'd all gone for the same job and that I had got it. But actually it turned out that they didn't go for it. And when I asked them why, they were saying to me that they didn't feel experienced enough. They'd been in the team for 5 years, and one of them had over 30 years experience against my 24-year-old self. Now obviously it wasn't anything to do with me whether I got the job or not. She didn't go for the job. And it really astounded me, it really got me thinking about how we hold ourselves back as women. And then when I moved into my next managerial role, I had a lot more women working for me. There was about 8 to 10 of them. We had loads more opportunities coming up all the time, promotion. And again, they weren't going for it, and I just couldn't understand why. And when I spoke to them, they were saying, I'm not experienced enough, I need another course, I need a refresher, I just need to lose weight, I need to change something about myself. And they were holding themselves back. So despite the fact that I was actually supposed to be a logistics expert and working on contracts for military helicopters and then submarines, I actually appointed myself as a little bit of a kind of side hustle of helping women to improve their CVs, go for promotions, and just have the confidence to do the interviews and put themselves forward for awards and things like that. We had a reward scheme that was dependent on us putting ourselves forward. We had to sell ourselves and say what we had done throughout the year. And all of these women were going, well, I've only done this, or I'm just part-time. And I was like, no, we need to take all of this just part-time stuff out. We need to take all of this language out where we're dumbing ourselves down and we're losing money. This is costing us money. But I personally wasn't immune to this kind of, thing about feeling confident in myself. And every time, for me personally, it came back to one thing. If I wasn't on top of my body size, if I wasn't thin enough, I didn't feel confident to go through speaking gigs. I didn't feel confident to put my hand up in a meeting full of men because I was worried about my body size. And my body size became a lifelong, another side hustle of trying to control it. And I didn't think I was enough. And I truly believed if I could just work out how to be thinner, my whole world would open up. I would go much further. Now, on the face of it, everybody could have looked at me and said, "But you're quite successful already. You're already successful. You've got the good job, you've got the husband, you've got the kids, you've got the house, all of that stuff." So I was ticking the right boxes for society. So nobody would be looking at me and thinking, "Goodness, how much further could this woman go?" Because they weren't worried about it, because it's tolerated. It's tolerated that I was holding myself back. It didn't actually look like I was holding myself back on the face of it. But actually, I really, really was. There was lots of things that I wasn't doing. Promotions was one of them for myself as well. So I was helping all of these other women go up the chain and doing all the things they wanted to do. But when it came to me, I quite actually didn't do it. And I want to talk about where this idea came from. Where did that come from, that I needed to be thinner to be successful? How did I didn't just invent that idea. And it's come from this social conditioning. It's not something that my husband has ever said. I have never ever heard my husband say, I'm going to go for that promotion, but I'm just going to diet for 12 months before I do. Like, never. It's not something that crosses his mind. Yes, he worries about his health, and yes, he goes to the gym, yes, he tries to eat like we all do. But it's not something that actually stops him, like physically stops him from showing up to something. There are people's birthday parties I haven't gone to because I wasn't thin enough, because I didn't lose the weight. There are all sorts of opportunities and things I haven't done because I felt like I wasn't thin enough. And I want to talk about that today because it's by design that we feel like this. It's by design that we spend more money on beauty than we do on education. Because we are so conditioned to believe that our value is all about how we look and what we show up as. And this is why I want to talk about it, because we're always talking about empowering women, but we're never really talking about why we have our power taken away in the first place and how. So it's no wonder that we often feel like, when we're running a business, if you have just set up your business or you've been in business for a few years, all of a sudden you are thrust into this world of putting your face on social media, doing all these reels, websites, branding pictures, and then we start to think about what we look like even more, and it can really, really knock our confidence. So that's what I want to talk about today. First of all, I really, really want you to do, this is the first exercise for everybody, I would really like you to think about what it means for you, what confidence means to you. How do you know when you are in your most confident self? I just want you to maybe shout out or discuss between each other for a second, and then we'll talk about what comes up. You happy to do that? Maybe on your tables? Or I just give this mic back to this lovely chap.
So like in English, the dominant personality and I'm working on a project we're in the same team. Is that imposter syndrome? And I went to Oxford using business. It tells you about the bit too when people tell me
Okay, does anybody want to share what's come up? Is there some common themes or anything you want to share? I feel like there's one down here that somebody needs to share. Do you want to share? Are you happy to?
Yeah, we were just discussing the inner monologue.
Oh, okay.
And how inner monologue that might be quite self-confident, but not actually wanting to express that kind of judgment. And I was just discussing the fact that women are more likely after saying something really excellent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
People saying that?
Yeah.
Not saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting that you should say that. So you can literally be saying something with your whole chest and then go, does that make sense? And it is really, it's kind of like, I just don't want to be too confident, like as in, it's like, it's the way we turn ourselves down, right? So we don't interrupt it. So we kind of excuse ourselves for being that confident. Is that what you mean?
It's a self-deprecating way that I think females I've noticed going on.
Yeah.
It's almost as we don't understand why entirely what you're actually saying. So we
Yeah.
have to see back to know that the first part, what we said was that we
Yeah. Yeah,
what we said was really full of words.
Yeah, and it made complete sense, right? And I think, I'm glad my husband's not here today because I was going to talk about him quite a bit, but I have never heard him say that. I have heard him say things that make absolutely zero sense, confidently, with numbers attached to it, and it makes no sense. And he's never questioning himself at all. And when you talk about there about the inner monologue, I think you're talking about like the inner critic, that kind of stuff. And sometimes that can be negative, and like you say, sometimes we've got that going on. Also, another thing that I talked to my husband about, and I was saying to him, you're in a critical voice, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm absolutely astounded that he didn't have that going on, so yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to share anything before we go on? Anybody else?
There was a couple of things that kind of came up. So there was about how we feel as a person walking into some place, and that's kind of, if I feel okay to go into something, that's where I kind of gauge my level of confidence. And there's also the kind of internal confidence. So some of us can act confident, but don't feel confident inside. And that could be about in a dialogue. It could just be, you're picking up data, but you're not processing it. And so there's a dip in your confidence. And so how do you manage and have that fine line between internal confidence and external? And if you can manage that, that's confidence. So,
yeah, it makes sense, don't worry.
I was checking.
That confidence. When I talk about this actually, I was talking to a friend about this, we went for a swim on Saturday night. She was asking me what I was talking about today. And I was talking about how certain situations can change how confident we are. And when I would be, delivering a talk about the ins and outs of helicopter logistics and contractor stuff in my old job, to a room full of people who maybe worked for me or alongside me, as opposed to the senior leaders who were 3 stars, 4 stars in the military, that the difference in my confidence was profound. And I was saying to her, we were swimming outside, and I was saying to her, it's like we have just got in the pool tonight, we have just put our swimsuits on, we've got in the pool, and we haven't worried about it. If I had been coming to the pool in, Miami Beach, with the Victoria's Secret models, I'd probably be feeling a little bit different right now. It's the situation quite often that changes our confidence. And I think that's worth paying attention to. I am going to come back to that in a bit though. So I was thinking about all the people that I see as confident women and all of the things that I see them being. And this, one of the things that came up for me, is that they speak up. They speak out about things that they don't agree with or that they believe in. And they're not frightened to do that. That's the first thing that came up. I'm going to have to keep telling that, sorry. And boundaries. They have really solid, unapologetic boundaries. And that's another thing that I think that I see in confident women. They make decisions without asking other people if it makes sense or, is that okay? They make decisions. They're very unapologetic in their whole being, how they are, how they dress, what they do, how they move through the world. And they prioritise themselves, and they don't. I'm going to come on to the opposite in a minute. They prioritise themselves and they know who they are. So then I started thinking, okay, what does the opposite of that look like? Because how do we recognise if we're maybe not in this space? Does anybody want to add anything to this list? Do you think that, does that sort of resonate with you too? Because this is my personal thoughts. It doesn't necessarily have to be yours. Yeah.
Making space for other people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We were talking in women's business a lot about leaving the ladder down, especially for other women. So yeah, I know that. Thank you.
So I'm also saying, they believe in themselves. authentic about believing in myself. I might not get it right, but I believe in myself and I believe in my message. I think that adds to that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I have the last one? It's maybe picking up not everyone's confident in the room and having a couple words with them, because confidence is contagious. So you kind of have a conversation and you bring that person involved, you get them involved, and before you know it, they're feeling more comfortable as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually. Yeah, I like that, making space for others. And yeah, I think we're very good at doing that, picking up on how others are feeling when people are maybe not feeling as confident as us. Yeah, it's a really good point. So I wanted to talk about the opposite of this, because I recognise this as being somewhere I have been personally. Again, this is my list, so don't feel like I'm not pushing this to you to say this is what I'm confident in. Like, this is actually probably like a mini autobiography of how I used to feel when I was very much like not younger, but post baby, and then when I hit into the perimenopause stage, I think significantly this is where I was. But this is how a lot of this is social conditioning. So, people pleasing, not speaking our mind. We learn to not speak our minds. We learn that as children. We learn that in school. When we speak up without putting our hand up, or we, say something out loud that people don't agree with, and we're shut down. We learn how to contort ourselves into the world and how we are supposed to be. We put ourselves down and shaming ourselves. There is how many times do you hear other women walk into a room and go, oh, sorry, don't mind my hair, or just ignore my shoes, don't look at my body. Like we walk into rooms shaming ourselves and putting ourselves down because it feels more comfortable to do that, because then we know that we've protected that space, that no one else will do that. And I used to do this all the time. And always doing what's expected of us. I think especially if we are in the world of work, or we're mothers, with all the roles that we play, what's expected of us, and always trying to tick all those boxes and asking other people's opinions first. I mean, I remember being in the MOD and I was promoted to the highest level I got to in the senior leadership role, and I had worked all of that time with all of that confidence and all of that knowledge, and I had been in the MOD 18 years by that point, so it's the last job I had. And all of a sudden I had a very controlling boss who was checking all of my emails before they went out. I mean, how unproductive for one, how disarming for me as a woman, in that it wasn't doing it to anyone else in the team, just me. And suddenly I lost my voice because my emails no longer sounded like me, they sounded like him. They sounded like a very angry senior leader in the civil service. And it just didn't feel right. I just felt I lost all my confidence, and then I stopped being able to put work together and just put it out into the world, because I started asking other people's opinions first, because I was trying to stop that from happening. Apologise if I'm not before, I am very guilty of this. Someone walks into me, I'm so sorry, like, hang on a minute, no, you walked into me. It's just automatic. Doing everything for everyone, getting to the space of, doing everything for everyone, and we're at the bottom of the list. So we haven't got time to go to the gym, we haven't got time to go for a walk, we haven't got, because we're doing all these other things for other people. And putting ourselves to the top of the list is so important when we're talking about getting into feeling more confident and more, upping our self-worth, because I think the two are linked. And comparing ourselves to others, especially in the world of business. If you're, I know we've got a mixture of business owners and people who work in corporates here. But comparing ourselves to others, when you're a business owner, we quite often compare ourselves to others online. Just this morning I had a conversation with somebody who was talking about setting up her own business. She's like, I've been looking at all these people's websites and everyone looks so glamorous and so amazing, and I don't know whether I should be doing this. And it's like, just stop, because you're comparing yourself from the beginning. You've just got to stay in your own lane, and you can't do that if you're constantly doing this stuff. So, I want to talk about the role of beauty standards and ageism, that impact on confidence. And because I am proposal, I'm going to think a little bit of it, because I will forget everything I want to say. I think it's important. So I do want to take a minute just to acknowledge the stuff that we've been talking about, because many of us don't talk about that stuff out loud. I am very open about my journey with worrying about my body image and how that has affected my confidence over the years, because I think it gives space for other people to do the same. Because we don't often talk about it. We often talk about the diet as well, and how much weight we lost, or whether someone else has lost weight and we want to do the same, and how we need to look after ourselves. And we don't often talk about how hard that is, and actually how much we struggle with worrying about that. And I am a person who has lost all of the weight and then back again. And I can tell you it didn't give me any more confidence. In fact, it gave me less because I was starving, which doesn't help anyway. My friend always says to me that a hungry body is an anxious body, and I totally agree with that actually. But I think, the role of living with these beauty standards, which include like thinness, which include ageism, which include all of this stuff, it really affects every part of our lives. It affects how we show up with our partners, how we show up in our relationships, but it also affects how we show up in business and how we show up in our careers. And that these pressures are constantly telling us that we need to look a certain way, to be taken seriously, to be respected, or even to be seen. And again, I'm going to say that it's by design, because if we're worrying about all that other stuff, if we're worrying that we're stepping on the scale every morning to see if we're worthy enough today or not, whether we've been good enough, what conversations are we not having? What spaces are we not, what boardrooms are we not sitting in, having more conversations about other stuff that really, really matter when we're thinking about that stuff. And I'm not talking about just like personal style preferences or self-care. It's actually deep-seated expectations that have been handed to us and shaping how we think we're allowed to show up in the world. And if you think about it on social media, most of the liked posts and the things that you get sent, and even just in like TV and films, the leading women, the leading people are aesthetically fitting a very narrow standard of beauty, whether it's like perfect makeup, wonderful skin, the perfect body size, those standards are everywhere. We have these social cues all the time about how we should look. And if we don't fit that mould, there's an underlying message that we need to fix it, so that we have more worth. And actually, it's just so not true. Ageism also comes into play in a really big way, because women in perimenopause or beyond, which is pretty much who I work with, the world suggests we are past our prime. And, it's just another way of saying our value declines with age, which isn't true. And I think logically we all know it isn't true, but we're still aligning ourselves to it. We're all still thinking, but it would still be nice to have less wrinkles or look 25 again, because of the pressure that's all around us. And it doesn't just make us feel uncomfortable. It doesn't just make us feel, invisible. It's actually keeping us from stepping up in our business, stepping up in our careers. And I think it has a direct impact on the fact that we will retire with up to 55% less than men. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for the fact that we are so different and disempowered, and why we still haven't managed to close the gender pay gap. We still haven't managed to, and we're probably still not going to close it for another 100 years. And right now, according to statistics, we're not getting paid for the rest of the year because our equal, if you think about it in terms of equal pay, we're now working for free for the rest of the year. And I've spoken to women all the time who feel that they need to just lose a little bit of weight before they have those brown filters done, or they avoid videos because they want to look camera ready, and they hesitate to attend networking events because they're really not feeling like they are worthy and they want to be visible. And those moments of doubt might seem really small, but actually over time they do create this big barrier, and they have an impact on us when we want to step up and lead. These standards are not real markers of our actual value. Our experience, our insight, and our voices, that's what makes us really, really powerful. And I honestly think if we can let go of some of these society's expectations, or even just question them when they pop up, of where this comes from, I think it's going to help us to come back into this power. I honestly don't think women need empowering. I think we need to just get back the power that we had taken away from us. Because empowerment sounds like we're going to give us something, I'm going to give you empowerment. But then what happens when you walk out the door and you're faced with something that makes you feel disempowered again? We need to dismantle it at the root. Wait one second. So I want to talk about, I want to talk about, forgive my spelling mistake. We can quite often say that we don't care, but actually, like I'm saying, we're not really given a choice, because there's so many social cues that are telling us what we should be. And I think often it's a privilege to say we don't need to talk about this stuff, but we can step out of this conversation on how these patriarchal beauty standards affect our success. And that privilege can be things like skin colour, body size, economic background, status, relationships. All of those things can mean that we think we don't have to get involved in this conversation. But I think it's because it's tolerated. It's tolerated. We have these conversations constantly with our friends, with our mums, with our grandmothers about, oh, I don't like my thighs, or I don't want to get into the photo. And we're so used to women talking like that about themselves. We don't call it out on each other. Like just yesterday, I listened to a couple, two ladies, two friends, talking, and one of them was telling her to start taking the weight loss drug. Just unsolicited advice out of nowhere, just telling her that it would be the best thing for her. Never mind the cost, never mind all that stuff. And this lady, I was horrified, and it took everything in me not to get involved, because I shouldn't have been listening to that conversation, but it was that very close to me. And it's just tolerated, this idea that the best thing we can be is thin, and that if we're not thin, we should be trying. So I want to take a little minute to do another activity, if that's okay, on your tables. So I'd really like you to think about one word, just one descriptive word to describe how these expectations of us as women make us feel when we're trying to promote our business, when we're trying to be more visible, when we're trying to lead, when we're trying to show that we are the expert in our field, whether we're in a career or whether we're running our own show. I just want you to come up with, in your groups, just talk about one word that could describe how that makes you feel. Happy to do that? If you get started, let me know. Okay, does anybody want to share? Anybody want to share? No, like we've definitely got something to share.
Pressure.
Pressure. Okay. We good? You got something? So the first one we've got is pressure. That's great. Any more? Anxiety, yeah. Anyone? My front table is on, trust me. It's okay. You can share. It's fine. Up to you. Any more before I go on to the
Inadequate.
inadequate? Yeah. Anything in the back? Sorry? Yeah, judged, yeah. Okay, I'm going to share with you the stuff that came up in the last time I did this. And I think it has in there. First one, judged, invisible, unworthy, restricted, pressured, self-conscious, fake. I think that's an interesting one that came up, and when I was talking about that before, she was saying, because I feel like I've got to be something else when I'm online. We were talking specifically about social media. And I feel like I've got to be someone I'm not online. I feel like I've got to do my hair before I go online, and I've got to be a different way. So that's an interesting one. Diminished, intimidated, frustrated, distracted. I'm really glad that one came out before, because I think this does keep us distracted. We've got to be thinking about what people are thinking of us. It's going to keep us distracted. Exhausted, because it's time, and objectified and limited. Anyone want to add anything before I go on to the next? Yeah. Cool. So when we think about, I want to think back to the slide we had before, this slide about the quality of confident women. How easy is it to be all of those things when you're feeling this? You know, how easy is it to speak up or speak out on issues that bother you? when you're feeling that? Not easy. How is it easy to have boundaries and make decisions without asking others first when you're feeling all those things? How easy is it to be unapologetic or prioritise yourself or really know who you are when you're feeling that you've got to measure up to a standard that was created and given to you, for you, without your consent? We're just going through life aligning ourselves to this. So, in reality, and this is a side hack that's probably pretty much aimed to mostly business owners, but I did put in there that we're waiting. I often waited to be offered the promotion rather than putting myself forward for it, because I wanted to know that other people thought I was ready first before I said I was ready. Not asking for that pay rise, comparing ourselves online to others. Someone else has got this many followers and I haven't, because it's all right for them. They're really confident, they're really thin, they're really pretty, or whatever it might be. Taking on clients that are not a good fit. This does happen when we are not feeling in our own self-worth, when we are doubting ourselves, when we don't have that confidence, when we don't have those boundaries. We're quite often saying yes to work that is not a good fit. Doing a lot of discounted or free work. I've met women who are offering discounts before someone's even asked, because they're just so ready to get people over the line. And it's hard. It's because we're feeling so pressured. Holding ourselves back, not really talking about the things that we want to be talking about. Maybe we skirt around the edges, and maybe we, talk about the things we think people want to hear, not the things that are actually inside of us that we want to talk about. Working until burnout, or we're making ourselves ill, and ignoring issues that our own health issues and pushing those ones to back burner because we're not putting ourselves first, because our self-worth is not there and our confidence in ourselves is not there. Anybody recognise any of these? Getting some nods, no hands. Oh, not having brown photo shoots done. I cannot tell you how you might have photographers I've worked with who are like, please help women to see how beautiful they are, because there's so many times that I'm getting people saying, I'll come back when I've lost a little bit of weight, I'll come back when, I've changed myself, when I feel better about myself. And actually, we put our lives on hold because of this stuff, because that could take, a year, or maybe never happen, and we never feel confident to get them done. Not showing up on social media and marketing ourselves is one of the biggest difficulties for women who are starting a business. We start this, we have these great ideas, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you've got all these platforms, you just need to jump on and go live. You need to do what? You need to actually stand there and talk into a camera. It's the most unnatural thing ever, and it can make us feel really self-conscious because our self is staring straight back at us, and we're just putting all of our thoughts and all of our opinions out into the world with no control of it once it's out there, and that feels very unnatural and very terrifying. Avoiding the work that will get results, charging prices to be accessible, and not showing what you believe in. Let's go. So, the main message of today really is you are you, your body, you as a person, and your body is not a problem to be fixed. No one is coming to save us from this though. This is an inside job. Self-worth and confidence is an inside job. And the reason is because of money. Because the beauty industry, the diet industry, and everything else that we pay money for, I'm not saying that we can't buy makeup. I absolutely love a good trip around Sephora. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a profitable business. So nobody is coming to save us to tell us that we are worthy enough. No one is coming to save us to say that we can be confident in the skin that we're in our whole entire body, because this is industries worth billions of pounds. There is no way they're going to do that for us and say you don't need all this stuff. We're selling it to you. Does that? No. It does make sense. I'm not going to do it. I need to do it. I'm not doing the fun. So now we want to talk about where these beliefs come from, and I want you to get used to asking that question: whose belief is it anyway? Because we have to identify like a limiting belief. For me, it was always I need to lose weight to be taken seriously. I need to lose weight and to be thinner to stand on stages. And that's a real thought that came into my head many times. And it's not that it doesn't ever come into my head now. It's just I recognise it as a thought that's coming based on my surroundings and everything that I'm told that I should be. So, I want you to do, a bit of activities, but these are workshops for a reason. I want you to just ask yourselves, in your groups again, in your tables, what standard are you holding yourself to, and how is that belief stopping you from showing up as yourself? If you can be happy to do that in the tables again. Yeah?
other person that I'm putting myself against and not getting to my place. And then I'm saying, okay, I'm not as good as that person. Actually, because that person who managed to, and I don't think people were just speak. So at the end, by the time I get to speak, the point is already been said. And I'm still like, I don't like so yeah, I can actually answer the good stuff about it, and then I feel bad about myself. When I'm not especially at home, I can imagine if the husband the kids. Right? So, like this time, so if I say it's my son, I don't make it research, not really the same, but that's what we're trying to do. But then, yes, they can, others will do it, they can do a relationship with. Because like, people are not to think that it's generally arrogance, it's just, I like who I am, but it's not an arrogance, but that doesn't mean sometimes it doesn't do
Right, so sorry, chance to share. I want to be interactive, so.
but it's not.
Have we got any beliefs that have come up, or anything that you want to share, or any things that you're holding yourself to? I heard some discussion down here about wanting to do more courses. Is that what you're saying?
So I would say I come from a basic construction background, and they all moved on in the world, and I totally fell against the grain. So I asked for promotion, asked for awards twice a year, being told I don't conform, and I basically excuse it, well, this is not being recorded, so you're going up to it.
Yeah.
And I did it, I kept going, until I got as high as I could, and then I just went, saw the line manager, and I started my own business 2 years next week, like it's 2-year anniversary, and I'm loving it. And I could from everything that you were saying, I resonate, I hear from my friends, I hear from ladies and coach, and I just go, no, go against the grain and have it and ask. You're worth it. But it is a belief thing, as you said, there's something probably more in me to bring out that and to have the confidence and just go, no, I'm asking.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. You're an example of exactly that what we're trying to give to other women. But typically, that's a conversation that I don't have with many women. But that's probably because the nature of what I do. People aren't coming to me because they feel really confident, they come to me because they don't. So that's really, really good. But, you know, what I was trying to do here is just thinking about these beliefs that are holding us back. But whose standard is it that we can't ask for a pay rise twice a year? Because that's unheard of, it just is. It is, that is going against the grain. But why are we calling it going against the grain? Because it's not normalised, is it, for women to be doing that? I bet you've been told you're balls, you've got balls or whatever. That's what happens though, isn't it? Oh, don't mess with her, that she wears the trousers. That's the language that men do not have to put up with. It's normal, and when we're doing it, we're going against the grain. So, anybody else want to share anything before I move on?
It was pretty much the same, that we have confidence and self-belief, but it's what people then perceive. Like you said, they might say, oh, we're just too confident, or who does she think she is?
Who does she think she is? Bossy. And actually, it's not just, we're not hearing that from other men, we're hearing that from other women sometimes. You know, that's something, because the role of the patriarchal standards that we're aligning with don't just come from, it's a systemic issue, it's something that's created around us and everybody is affected. So there are other women who say that exact thing. Who does she think she is? You know, there's lots, I can't even think of your phrases now, my brain's gone. But yeah, there's lots of that. When you're self-confident, you're self-assured, you're kind of, and I know that, I don't know if anyone has recognised that when you move up and when you become more successful, quite often you'll lose friendships and relationships along the way. And that's really interesting because, people really struggle with that. Yeah.
There's been maybe a little bit of what I was saying, but it's a patriarchal system that actually I found women have recognised some of those male behaviours worse than the men have encountered.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually done more damage
Yeah.
through what we've said, because it's made you stop and think more than I think if a man did it.
Yes.
I would probably dismiss it and go, box that.
Yeah.
But a woman else give that more colour. I give that more credence.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my goodness, if you're saying that to me, there's something of validity to it, and
Yeah.
I'm giving too much power to that from a woman.
Yeah.
And that is far more damaging.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
so
a
true.
system, but it's weaponizing that language that gets turned
Yeah, we don't talk about that enough, I don't think, how women use that. Yes.
I'm just thinking about this one now. So I know what I know. If I'm stepping out, so I know development and all of that. I don't know marketing. And marketing's all about social media, how you let And then the men out there or the people who are doing it have this kind of masculine model that seems to work, which means all the things. So I have to look outside of myself to go, it's their standard that I have to reach in order to make it, because that's the data I'm getting in.
Okay.
Does that kind of, so I would look
Yeah.
at stuff, things that I don't
But
know.
I think this comes back to like women doing business differently. And I have a friend who actually runs a marketing business, and she talks a lot about this. In that all these marketing books and all the gurus and all the courses and stuff are written by men that aren't looking after small children. She's got 3 very small children, and so she just completely changed it. Like, how can I make a system for understanding my marketing and helping other women understand their marketing that works for women, whether they've got kids or not, but works for the way that we work, rather than working in that, like you say, that different energy. So yeah, it's a really good point. So really the difference between the confident version of you and where you are now, if you're not feeling confident, is the ability to identify where these beliefs come from. Because once you identify it, this is what I'm going back to saying is, I don't wake up in the morning and love my body every day. But I now know that it doesn't have to derail my day or anything that I do, because I know where those beliefs come from. It comes from that dance class where I couldn't get into the uniform at age 6. It comes from my brother calling me fat when I was 8. It comes from the first diet that I did at age 17, when I was told that I would just be so pretty if I just lost a bit of weight. That's where it comes from. So when it comes up, which it does, I know that I'm not giving it any time. So, there's me. That was my confidence, not small. What does it look like for you? And the reason I use this picture is intentional, because my goal for this year, say this year, I don't really work in like January years, but this year was to speak more. And that's the reason I put that up there, is because I wanted to know what it looked like for me to move on to my next level this year, and that was speaking. That's everything I've done is been about moving myself further towards more speaking engagements, podcasts, being online and doing this kind of thing. And so that's why I put that up there as a reminder. What would you allow yourself to be your next level? What is your next move? What is the one thing that you want to do? And again, this is just something I want you to really quickly scribble down. If you've got a pen, and just say it out loud if you want to. What's the one thing that you want to do to take you to the next level of your career or your business, or even in your life? Because for some people, it's actually to be having more kind of time for themselves, or time to self-care, or time with their family. And what's the one thing you need to make that happen? And the one action that you can take. Because this is what I will do for myself in terms of thinking about, right, okay, my one goal that's going to take me where I want to be is more speaking. So what's the one thing I need to do to make that happen? I need to put myself out there. So it's all of that stuff. So if you can think of anything and anyone want to share, or you want to talk again in groups, it's fine, we've got a few minutes left. And near the end, so it's this is the last activity. So if there's anything anyone wants to share, then we can have a chat. Anybody got any goals they're working towards? Anybody writing a book, starting a podcast, doing anything like that?
All of that.
All of that? Oh, yeah, okay.
That's why I need to focus my goal.
Okay, so what is the one thing you need to make that happen?
I need to focus. Put some time aside for
that. So while I'm running on doing projects, it's actually just taking out that time to do these things. Which
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do, like, instead of working 5 days a week, work 4 or 3, and then do the rest, because that's going to build the business too.
Yeah. And what's some of the ways of working that one less day a week so you can make time to do?
I just had a baby 6 months ago. So I'm trying to balance it out.
That's a big reason.
But I'm going back in the game, so I think I need to just lean on more and get more support where I need it.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's right.
definitely.
Delegate.
Usually when I ask that question, I say, what's in your way? Usually women say, me. Because usually we are the thing that's standing in our own way. There is nothing that we can't, there is no book that we can't write. There's not too many books out there. There's not too many podcasts. There's not too many interviews on radio shows that you could do. Or, there's not too much of anything. It's actually just about getting out of our own way and just stepping forward and just getting it done. Because there's so many things that we will put in place, but there's so many excuses that we can
I
make.
think we need to also stop, like you said, stop looking at what others are doing, because that ruins you. And sometimes I just switch off from LinkedIn and social media because I'm like, oh my God, they're already doing it. I've been thinking about this for 5 years.
It's almost like you knew my next time. So, this is some other stuff that we can do. Brilliant segue, thank you. And we're coming to the end, so that's great. Is unfollow the people and the things that are making you feel like you're not good enough. Whether that's the influencers that are showing off their perfect yoga mornings and their 5 a.m. routine, or whether it's people in your industry that you feel are further along than you. The advice I see online is follow people in your industry. Absolutely not. Do not do that. Unless you really need to get some guidance from it, because you will go down a comparison rabbit hole and you will never get out. So it's so good to unfollow these people, even if these people are your best friends or your family or people you think you should be following. You don't have to. You can mute, you can block, you can unfollow, you can do all those things, because that will help you to not just stop comparing yourself, but start speaking about the way you want to do things. We do things totally differently from everybody else, and we don't realise how much we're kind of filtering from other people's content and other people's ideas into our own, and it actually waters down our own message. Raise your standards, and instead of thinking that people are judging you, this is one thing that I talk to my clients, my body image clients, about when they think that they are too fat. They think they are too big, and people will not choose them to work with because society doesn't celebrate their body type, and they think they're not going to get the work. What I always say to them is, you don't need to take people who are judgmental of how you look. You do not need to take on clients that won't work with you unless you're a different body size. And you don't need to have relationships with people who expect you to be a certain body size. You've got friendships that are dependent on you being thin. It just doesn't, that just raise your standards. We don't need to be doing that. And put yourself first. You cannot hate yourself into a smaller body. You can't body shame yourself into a smaller body. You know, I used to do that. It's just a picture of myself on the fridge to shame myself into not eating. It doesn't work. It just makes us have a worse relationship with ourselves. So put ourselves first. What's the thing we want to do? We want to feel good in ourselves. You know, I can feel good in my body. I don't have to shame myself into hating myself enough. It doesn't work that way. And that's, I think, it. That's it. That's me. I'm running a visible and confident workshops with deep and stuff, and I'm going to be really struggling with body image and showing up on social media. That is available down in the QR code. But other than that, that is me. That is it. She's gone.
Tamsin, tell us one reason why we should do that workshop.
Because I've seen too many women getting in their own way, especially on social media. This whole workshop is very much around social media and getting visible. Because when we're not online, we have to use these tools. So many women will say to me, I hate social media. Do you hate a free tool that helps you market your business to thousands, if not millions of people every day? It's not that. It's because we're worried about how we sound, how we look. We think we've got to put on loads of makeup first, we've got to look a certain way. This is, I'm going to be sharing my empowerment code method, which is a really deep dive into how we dismantle all of this stuff so that we can actually show up and start using those incredible free tools. And I am someone who has now fallen in love with social media, but I was the girl who posted something on social media and then went and hid under a duvet cover for about 2 days. Because it wasn't natural for me to do that. But there is so much that we can do when we get out of our own way and stop feeling that we can't show up. So it's a very deep dive, 90-minute workshop that's going to go into that stuff and really help you sharpen your business with all of your voice and everything confidently.
Thank you.
Great. Ooh.